Welcome to our collective leadership video series, and remember, the future of leadership is collective. If we want to move the world towards a more sustainable future, then we need to see leadership as the capacity of a collective to catalyze and implement positive change for the common good, for a world in ecological balance, an economy, a global economy that serves the whole of humankind, and a global society where people support each other in their development. That is important. This is a global learning journey, and it can only be achieved in multi-actor collaboration on local levels, regional levels, national levels, on the global level. So then what is the collective leadership compass about? The compass is a meta-level guiding structure that helps us make such multi-actor collaborative settings work for the future of humankind. It is a structure that actually invigorates human competence, the human competence to collaborate, because that is as old as humankind. So how does it do it? The meta-level guiding structure, the compass, works like a fractal of the future living system, the living interaction system, the living structure that we need to create in order to be able to drive towards a more sustainable future. So it kind of mirrors the evolutionary change that actually needs to take place. But at the same time, it builds on something that is already there. It builds on the human competence to collaborate. The compass has 6 dimensions, and it is about invigorating the competences in these 6 dimensions: future possibilities, engagement, innovation, humanity, collective intelligence, and wholeness. These dimensions are not necessarily new. They are certainly as old as humankind. But what is new is driving our collaboration processes in a way, planning them, implementing them in a way that keeps an attention, a conscious attention to all the 6 dimensions in the way we act, in the way what to do, in the way we plan, and the way we collaborate. Doing that helps to invigorate that human competence to collaborate in a fruitful way. It invigorates the interaction systems between people. It drives towards more fruitful outcomes. It doesn't avoid conflicts at all, but it helps us to navigate conflicts, to navigate differences, and to drive these differences into a progress that actually helps everybody. So in a way, the compass helps us to become more resilient, more vital as a human interaction system. And in that way, it helps us to drive a future pattern that is a more sustainable pattern for the world. And that can be happening in all the sustainability issues that we know, in water resource management, in driving energy efficiency, in using resources in a different way, in building social cohesion, or in driving a better and more responsible economy. So let us have a look at what are the competences that are behind these 6 dimensions. So let us have a look at the dimension of future possibilities. Every change endeavor starts with people seeing a future possibility. They have a vision that could be one person or could be a group of people, but it is always about wanting a different future from the present. So it is a deeply embedded human competence. And I believe there's not one person in the world that doesn't have that competence. We all grow with that. That is natural to us. But it doesn't really always mean that the way we build our systems, our relationships, our organizations, our societies, that this is always the competence that is being enhanced. So this is about looking at what enhances each and everybody's inherent tendency to want to create future possibilities. and what is blocking it, and how can we unblock that competence? Because that invigorating desire to wanting to change something for the better is competence we all need, and we need to systematically build this competence into our change processes. So let us have a look at the dimension of engagement. What are the competences that are behind this dimension? You probably know the quote from Arthur Schopenhauer, who says, "A new idea is first ridiculed, then fiercely opposed, until it becomes self-evident to everybody." So I believe there is something that can be done about bringing new ideas a little bit faster into the world. And that is the art of engagement. Because if people drive future possibilities, that's fantastic, absolutely great. But if there aren't enough people to take them up, or you're driving them against a lot of resistance, that is not going to work. So what we need to learn in order to drive the world towards a more sustainable state is to learn the art of engagement. And that isn't necessarily only aligning people behind my goal, or kind of having a participation for the sake of participation. It is a very sensitive and truthful and transparent engagement process of getting people into being able to jointly diagnose the reality, in being able to digest new ideas, and being able to jointly work on their future vision, their future possibilities, and the future plans together. So engagement is more than just telling people what to do, and more than just suggesting what needs to be done in a different way. It is also getting behind the view and the understanding of how people act and why they act the way they act. And that is very, very crucial. So engagement is at the cornerstone of us driving a better future. Let us have a look at the dimension of innovation. So what is behind the dimension of innovation in terms of human competences? I think we all agree that sustainability requires innovation at a large scale. And some people mistake innovation for just technological innovations. That is certainly extremely important, and I do believe that we need a lot of technology innovations in order to drive a better future. However, innovation also belongs into the social areas, and there are many, many social entrepreneurs at the moment around that actually drive social innovations. They even drive business innovations in the sense of business endeavors that are more responsible towards society, towards human being, and towards the ecology of our planet. So the capacity to innovate, some people think that is something for individuals, for really bright individuals, and I wouldn't completely deny it, because there are just people who run around constantly with ideas, and they check reality, and they come up under the shower or in a coffee shop or during their meditation with new ideas, and they just have that faculty that we really need to foster, the faculty of being creative and coming up with new ideas. Yet innovation is much more than that. Innovation is an idea born, but an idea is never just the idea of one person. It always is built on interactions with people, on experience, on our experience in the world. And it then grows with interaction with people. So innovation is, on the one side, creativity. That is something we need to foster. But on the other side, our ability to be able and to desire to go into the unknown, to be open to new possibilities, to be open to a different way of doing things. And that is something we can foster among each other, and that we can foster in collaboration initiatives. So that is a crucial part of our ability to drive sustainability initiatives and to move forward towards a different kind of world. And of course it belongs together, because you can already see now that future possibilities, engagement and innovation belong together. They are interdependent. When you build the competences in one area, you very often also build competences in another area. And what is important is not to leave out any of these areas, but keep them in a joint approach. Let us have a look at the dimension of humanity. What are the human competences that are behind that dimension? There's one thing that I've experienced and discovered in my work around the world in multi-stakeholder collaboration initiatives. In difficult situations, when the situations were tense, when people had conflicts, when people thought they wouldn't be able to agree on anything, the moment people were able to see a story behind a difficult to understand behavior, the moment they could see the human being with fears and anxieties and with interests, but not necessarily only institutional interests, but with that human capacity and the human failures, the moment people could see a story, or they could understand why things came about the way they came about, or why people insisted on a certain position and how this position actually developed in their history. The moment that happened, the climate in the room changed, the climate between people changed. So humanity in collaboration processes is a very, very strong competence to be able to step into the shoes of somebody else and to look at the world from somebody else. And that can be organized. That encounter can be organized. It can have an informal component that people are able to see each other as people. And it can be formalized in the way we collaborate with each other, the way we meet with each other, in our ability to listen to each other's perspectives and to listen to the stories that have emerged and that have made people the way they are and that give rise to certain positions. So humanity is a very, very important aspect, and we need to cultivate that in our collaboration initiatives. So let us have a look at the dimension of collective intelligence and see what are the competences that actually are behind that dimension. I believe human beings dwell in the house of language. It is our capacity to converse with each other, our capacity to dialogue that is actually building our evolution. It's the narratives that we tell ourselves and the narratives that we tell each other that actually create the world, that build the world, that kind of strengthen certain aspects or leave out other aspects. So we do all dwell in the house of language. We know that dialogue is as old as humankind, and it has been expressed in various different ways. And if we look at today's workshop or conference settings, then we can track the history of the different ways of human beings staying in dialogue and communicating with each other. I do believe, though, that we can improve that sometimes we may need to go back to old forms of dialogue and what we can learn from them. And in other ways, we need to maybe invent new forms of dialogue. But it needs to be a kind of conversing and communicating with each other that respects each other's differences. Because what we need for sustainability, and that is crucially important, we need our differences. It would be absolutely great if everybody would be of the same opinion, but that isn't not necessarily helpful. So in opposition is always an intention to correct or to add something new or to bring in something that has been neglected or left out. So if we learn to see opposition in its intention to correction, as well as if we learn to dialogue in a way that helps us listen to each other, that helps us, our ability to understand the different perspectives and where they are coming from, and that helps us to acknowledge difference even if we do not agree. That is a crucial cornerstone, because sustainability, the learning journey that we are on, the learning journey we are on towards a better world, requires difference in experience, expertise, opinions, perspectives, and everything else, because it is about progressing and processing these differences into better solutions. And so that is a crucial part. Collective intelligence is a crucial part that we need for sustainability. So let us have a look at the dimension of wholeness. What are actually the competences, the human competences behind that dimension? So you may say, so what is wholeness about? So it could be everything and nothing. And it could be something very individual, or it could be something very global. And I think it's both. And it's very important to address both issues. Wholeness at a large scale is our ability to look at things from a distance and to take into account a larger perspectives. Because if we don't do this, we do not only act in isolation, we may act in the naivety that the positive intention that we have will have a positive impact. And that may not necessarily be the case, because we have not taken into account a larger context. And that can be quite simply the way people act around energy efficiency or renewable energies. There are many, many actors around and they do not connect. So I would be just very simply looking at wholeness would be to say, can we look at the entire change system around energy, and what does it mean, and what are the factors that are in place, and how are we, what kind of actors are we in that larger system, rather than looking at what we do? Can we perceive ourselves as part of a larger collaboration system towards a certain issue? And what would this mean? But it can also mean that we question our solutions that may have been a solution but that created new problems. So looking at wholeness, that, for example, a good example is that sustainability standards are a hugely important issue. Yet, at the same time, they've created a new problem, because they may be so expensive for suppliers that people can't afford it. So, yes, they're great, and the next solution would be to create something that makes it much easier for people to adhere to the standards rather than getting certified in a certain sustainability standards. A huge challenge that needs to be addressed. So wholeness means our ability to look at the larger context and constantly cross-check in what context are we actually operating in. That can be sometimes overwhelming, and I'm admitting that you can also look at a kind of a relative larger context that is important. But it's crucially important that we place our actions in the context of the actions of other people, other institutions, other actors in a field, that we understand the field, and that we think about how this field creates a joint impact rather than isolated islands of success. So wholeness is extremely important for leading collectively towards a more sustainable future.